Okay, meeting came to order at 7:01. We are missing one board member, David Kelsey. I entertain motion to a discuss. Make a motion for that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Motion is David's place. Seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Any abstention? You're on.
Okay, thank you.
The first order of the election chair. So
I'll nominate.
I'll second that.
thank you. Our nomination. I think
Three times, say some magic words.
No, I think that's for something else.
Is there any discussion? And I'll call.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Any abstentions? Motion carried. Well, thank you. The item on the appointment of clerk. Let me just,
I think since last year, the statutes require that the Board of Finance elect an appointed clerk. And although we've forever and ever gone through this, so this is nothing new. It's just
comply with.
I will enter motion for the appointment of a clerk.
I move that we.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other needs for clerk?
Michelle, serve appointed.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Call for a vote. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any
Any
abstentions?
abstentions? Okay.
Michelle is the new appointed clerk. The
Next
next
item.
approval of the November 17 meeting minutes.
I
I
will.
have nothing to.
Before we move to approval.
Is there any preliminary discussion?
Just a couple quick errors. Two Olsons, an ON and an EN. And I think we got them backwards on a couple spots. On the tax collector's office, it should be Eric Olson with an E on the second page, or excuse me, page 3.
And that should also, does it have a K at the end of the name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's same thing with the fuel and propane prices. That was Eric Olson with an E.
All right, well, let
me entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second, somebody?
I'll second it.
Second. Okay, then more formal discussion to, excuse me, to formally incorporate Matt's comments. Are there any other comments? Yes, Anna.
On the first page, it says approve right underneath the approval of October 19th. It just seems that the first sentence is repeated. You just take that out.
And then in the second paragraph, it starts there being no corrections noted, but that first paragraph was the correction. So I think it just should take that part out and just say a motion was made to approve the minutes as well.
Any further?
I'm just, oh, go ahead, Brian.
Well, one comment, which doesn't require a change, but I noticed the cost of fuel is about $3.30 a gallon. And I purchased fuel in about 2 months ago, $2 a gallon. So we're just raising our awareness to a better price in the future, maybe to shop around. I don't know all the details of the contract, so maybe there's some
Well, it
other
also,
factors. But
it also includes the fact that we have maintenance with them.
sure, I understand.
Eric's here. You can talk to Eric. He wrangled the deal.
I just paid a-
maybe 99 for propane from Wilcox.
I did.
Well, that's fair point.
Okay, any other comments? Then I will call.
One quick, actually, before we get, I've got one quick question. I'm trying to reconcile the November highlights that were provided. So on the first line about total revenue, it says in 23-24 it was 55.7 0.76%. And then, but going back from last month, which it should have been less, it says it was 56.76 collected in the first line under revenues or financial reports. I'm just trying to get my head around those two numbers.
Let
me
ask.
ask you.
So the,
You're on financial.
yeah, in the,
Questioning the first line, what is it?
so this, if you read, it says, they're talking about total collected in 23-24. So last month, it says 56.76 is collected.
Yeah,
It should say 20.
So 23-24 for November. So this is like, we should have more collected now than we had, but the number goes down on the financial report from this month. It goes down to 55.76. I'm just trying to get my head around those two numbers.
so that's an excellent observation. It's only a little bit of investment, but we don't know. So the question is wrong.
Can I see that?
I think it's got to be total for the year. It can't be
Yeah.
like a monthly total. It's like, it doesn't make intuitive sense.
Correct, it has
Yeah.
to be year to date.
Yeah.
So,
Does anyone have the October in front of you? Hold on, Miss Anna.
okay, so
I think that the minutes are correct, as stated, there's an error in the
numbers, to correct that.
the financial report.
Right, Diane?
56 was in fact in the report. Okay.
We want to do that one. Yeah, from.
Exactly what's in that first line of that report.
Okay, so maybe
This.
Don't know which is incorrect, but apparently this accurately reflects the report that was distributed.
The October report on line
200
says that there's 43.59% left to date.
Well, this,
That's the reciprocal.
Right, it's a reciprocal. And then the report is pertinent to today's meeting.
Says it's like,
43 point.
Yeah,
We,
so,
Yeah.
lower, which is what you would expect. It's collected negligible between the last time we met. Which
seems like
a
the
number.
numbers.
Over here, October 2024, the report that you get the revenue is percentage left, not percentage collected.
Correct.
The percentage left as of October 2024 was 43.89.
I have it as 43.59.
That's not the number we get in this little highlight.
Right, it's the opposite. If you take 100, you have to subtract the 43.89, you get the percentage. This gives you percentage left. That's a percentage left.
That's
It still
still,
doesn't
still,
well,
It doesn't answer the.
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just, there's just an inconsistency in the numbers. In today's report, it says the total revenue year to date, i.e. through November, is 55.76%, which is less than total revenue collected for October.
No, it's backwards. It's
Not year to date, that's per month. That's October 2023 compared to October 2024, the percentages. And then November
Oh.
percentages for just a month.
It's the percent of the income we collect for the month, so it would change based on when we have the meeting. So if I have it on the first of the month, that would be a really low. Like, it's not.
No, it goes by the prior.
Calendar month.
Like, the November meetings, I do October's number, so October was closed. So it was October 2024 versus October 2023.
But what is the, but,
Collected that month.
but what does the percentage mean? I mean, I'm just looking at today's report through November. And the first line reads, total revenue was up 930,008 for fiscal year 24-25, 56.55% versus fiscal year 23-24, 55.76%. So the 55.76% is a percent of what?
That's the total.
Of the year.
That's the total. These are breakdown from month to month.
But how would it go
So,
down?
yeah, so, but based on what was reported in October,
No, let me,
should,
let me just show you.
Yeah, actually, over here, we're all getting the numbers.
No, I just want to see the document that you provided. It says, as of November, 55.6%,
Right.
right? Like, this is, let's look at what you provided.
Right.
Do you agree that that number is correct? 55.7% as of November.
I'm gonna show you right here.
This is,
So I have to show you, so you can,
no, I want you to look at the document.
right here. 56.7 is left for property,
November,
okay? And then here is 2023 is 57.57.
but this says
57.
55.76.
That's the next numbers.
I see, it's a 324 number that's weird.
Oh, because it went out of different decimal.
Well,
No,
the 20,
no.
she provides the 23-24 numbers, so you can benchmark.
But she provided
against what we
at two
collected.
occasions with different numbers. That's all.
But that's what he's saying. See, here she says it was 56.76 and now it's 55.76.
Which is the 57.
Oh.
This number collected cannot have gone down from October to November in 24, 20, 23, 24.
Yeah.
That was okay.
It went up only by a little tiny bit.
Oh,
It's just a-
Yeah, I see.
So which one is,
So,
She's figuring it out.
57.57 is ahead.
Well, you mean this month should be 57?
2023 is 57.57.
5757?
This.
Okay.
Oh,
That's this one.
That's the top line number, total revenue.
that's top, never mind. Sorry. The numbers come from different places. Here. 55.76 was the total revenue collected
In 23, 24
in 23-24.
for like,
Then
okay,
if you
okay.
go to 24, and you look at this one, 100 subtract that is 56.55.
That's
what
fine.
should this number be right there?
That should be this total amount, total right here, not just absence, it's just for the total. That's right,
That's what's the-
55.76.
And also the 5576 is correct.
Yes.
And this
So
has-
how is the number 56.76 October?
So it should be lower.
Because 56,
So it looks like there's a
is a this year number, and this is a last year.
Well, I understand it. I'm looking at last year versus last year.
Right, those are, seem to be out of sync.
That's what that was, that's what.
Yes.
discussing.
24 numbers.
No, I got
You
it.
have less.
Right, yes.
24 numbers.
Is-
Yeah.
This should be October 2024, 100, 40, 50, right? And you got 55, right?
So it says here 56.7. That's what I'm trying to get with the math.
Let me do the numbers.
So the October was,
This 56.7.
yeah. Yeah.
Lower.
In October, we didn't get a summary like this in October.
100.
I didn't bring my packet.
Like what? Yeah,
This
we
is the
did.
packet from
I think you got that at the meeting because you didn't get your mail,
because I
We didn't get it. We didn't get.
That's right,
the-
I didn't get the mail.
but it was in there.
No, I didn't get it. I just checked through all my stuff. We didn't get this cover in October or no.
It was November
We got
19th was the
we got
date,
it in
right?
the mail.
Yes,
but
but I
you
think
didn't
this-
get your mail.
Oh, I didn't get it.
You got your paperwork at the meeting.
We did get a notes for
Oh, I
October.
didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't get it at the meeting and Kim and I didn't get them mailed to us.
I don't know.
That's-
Mine are from the mission.
I now have
I
that.
never,
Oh, wait.
Chairman, I have
Oh, wait.
a question.
Here it is. There you go.
There's a discrepancy.
But my,
this was
Well, no,
not, this was not
obviously,
from the
this
meeting.
year, I
This
thought
was
it
in the
That's last month.
no, it was right.
This is from right now.
This is the
Oh,
October.
that's the total.
If you didn't pull your mail and put it in there.
This is October.
You have the right.
I think regardless of what the number is, the question is, how is it that from,
We have collected more taxes, even if it's a marginal amount than never.
Well,
Correct.
I don't think that's the question. The question is, what is the correct answer? What's the correct answer to the question? What percentage of total revenues were collected as of October 31?
October 31, total revenue collected.
I have
Percentage left was 44.50. If you, so collected would be 55.5.
55.25. Or 55.25 is not the number stated.
55.5? Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't make
But
sense.
it's not the number stated in your reports.
October highlights has 56.11.
Yeah, that's the number in the October.
Or 24, 25, and then, but the real one that's screwed up is 23, 24, I think.
I don't want to take more time than needed. You can have, figure this
At
out
least
and then we can.
For this year, it's like, oh, okay, it went up by little
So
teeny
maybe
tiny
we just
amount.
don't approve the minutes tonight
This is
and,
the,
This
and wait
is-
for this to get
unfortunately, it looks like it went
unmixed.
where
down.
you said that
And
the
that's
total
not
is
possible.
66.76.
So this is the number.
And then in the
Like,
November report, you
so
said.
now
for
she's
the
saying,
same
she
year,
just told me,
the
she
total
just said it was 57. That's okay, it went up a little bit
This right here. I,
between October and
I
November.
mean, if it was a typo, that's a very simple and perfect answer.
that right there, I'll show you, I know that the November one is right here.
Provide all the
November 2024.
just composes expenditures.
Mistakes. Well, it's a lot of numbers.
Revenue for the.
Oh, right.
Which year has the discrepancy?
It's the 23, 24, I
There's a
think.
problem.
Less left.
One way or the other.
That's for this year.
Right.
Regardless.
One of the
In
next.
October, it was
Prior year.
56.76.
Yeah, can't go down.
55.70.
Here it's 55.
Okay, but last month, you said it was 56.76.
So that one, let me check. I'll do my math here and I'll.
So it's the same number, so I assume it's just a typo.
It's probably a typo.
Yeah, now we're saying this one's not wrong, that one's correct, okay.
So Anita is confident that the percentage collected. No, wait a minute. It can't be the same number.
Nope, it can't. No, it's a
No,
different.
no, it would be because even
No.
it's a month later, so it has to be a different number.
It has to be a bigger
It
number.
has to be bigger, that's.
Bigger number.
That's the
It's
problem.
small.
The November number needs to be bigger than the October number, no matter what year we're in.
That's right, no matter what year we're in.
So-
Unless we gave back some money.
We got to go on. Let's go back to the minutes. The number reflected in the minutes was accurate as stated at the meeting. So I don't think we should make any correction to the minutes, but we'll let Anita figure out for a future discussion what the actual percentages are. And that's a number of only academic interest. It doesn't affect any decision making.
Right.
So,
This is 55.5 for October 2024.
So that would be the November highlights? No, sorry, that would be October. And how much was that again?
55.5
Well, that would be lower.
and October 2023. Was 54.6.
that's fine.
So-
Those are just different numbers than the ones in your report. That's all. Okay.
So both of them are
Wrong.
wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
But next month they'll be right.
I'll give you a whole, I'll give you some.
Don't worry about it.
okay. Okay.
So the motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments? And I call for a vote in favor of the minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? minutes accepted as amended. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, just before we move
Yeah.
past this little exercise, I don't know how valuable the monthly number is.
As
Monthly
opposed to the
percentage
year-to-date.
as opposed to the year to date.
I agree.
I mean, I think that's great to have this information, which we didn't have before on a summary sheet without going to your financials. But I think having, particularly for revenue, just where are we fiscal year to date is really percentage in my, personally. And that takes half of the discussion, or the bulk of what the discussion was here tonight, right out of it. Because that's really, how are we tracking for the year? I mean, it's the same thing on the expense side, which again, it's great the way it's broken down here. You can see, and I'm sure as you have in the past, you'll point out to us if there's something really out of whack that we need to be aware of. Both on the revenue side and on the, like, all of a sudden interest rates fell and we're not going to collect the amount of interest we expect to. So I don't know, that's just
I
my,
think that's a good point. We don't need the monthly detail.
I think that's,
Just confusing.
yeah. Anita may need it. It may help her, but I don't know that we need to
The monthly stuff.
go there. But that was just my opinion.
With which
So
some
you're
of us
saying the-
concur.
The monthly information, which allows us to benchmark and say, where were we at this time last year?
The year to date will we'll do that. I mean, 4 months,
Okay,
5
okay.
months into it, which I do think is important. Whereas the months
Isn't really.
it's not significant except July and August.
Yep.
And January/February. Because that's when the bulk of the revenue comes in.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's probably a lot of work for Anita too.
In any event, the revenue on a year-to-date basis seems consistent and nothing to worry about. People are continuing to pay their taxes and we're continuing to
We're
get
getting
it.
interest and we're,
So we're done with the minutes. We're on the financial reports. Anybody have any questions or comments? Yep, go ahead.
One, Joanne, the tree commission, she wanted to let you guys know that she only has $7 left in her line for tree removal, and she has 5 still remaining to pay down, and it's gonna be about $22.72 for that in the spring. It's Bill Lane, 2 Sycamore Tree, Private Oaks, and Lakers, and Town Hall Hill.
All right, so if we scroll down to
It's
page,
on page 5. Which is $7 left there.
Yep.
well, she's probably good.
Yeah, I made a note of that one. Okay.
Okay, so if you look at the bottom of the tree total, it says the balance remaining is 6,400, but
Right, I just want to add that one line, the tree removal line.
second line up from that. It says $7.
you mean that's contracted services?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
So she's not asking for appropriation at this time, she just wanted you to be aware, just in case, because we have to make it through the winter months. So there might be more, this is only what has been identified currently.
Can I ask why the 3 of the other lines have not been spent at all?
Also, is this a public works? Are these trees in the right of way and she's taking them out of her budget? Because in the past, I think Public Works just does it and we don't get charged contractor services for this. And her budget was more for like maintaining property type, town property type stuff, not Public Works level tree taking down. I mean, Oak Street and stuff like that sounds like it's a tree that's on the side of the road that like is dangerous.
Well, that's what the tree warden does. The tree warden goes out and identifies trees.
Right, but usually Public Works has been doing a lot of that.
I think if it's on the road and it's near power lines, Public Works doesn't do
Well,
it.
that would make sense.
That's true.
Public Works will not do anything near power line.
Eversource though.
I would think Eversource would do this.
Then told us they weren't doing trees in the last month, done a couple of trees for us, so.
Boy, I lost power
Anita,
for 5 hours last week.
what was, how many trees does she think need to be taken down? 5 more?
5, the tree warning, ordered 5 trees,
5 more,
and it's 2272. We the shortage.
okay?
But that's,
It's unclear to me why Public Works can't take some of those down.
Public Works does not take down the tree.
They cannot take
Yeah.
them.
They call
Insurance.
contractor.
But it's under their budget. That's what I mean. Like, I didn't mean like they're gonna take the tree, but they deal with it. Like when it's in the road and it falls over, it's not like the
Mhm.
tree commission is out there like deciding if it was a fancy tree that we need to like put back.
So there's $2,200 in the other miscellaneous that hasn't been spent.
Yeah.
So I think the notion is that they're not asking for an additional appropriation now. And I think we want to wait, right,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
until the end of the year to see what the department as a whole is over.
Yes, and Dick, that's what she wanted to be aware of it.
They have to talk about it. She's- this is what money for what to do.
Okay,
I think that's what's going on here.
anybody else have comments or questions?
I just highlighted the, Board of Assessment Appeals. Do we need to be,
Page.
can you give us a page?
5?
5. Still on 5.
I was just concerned about whether we need to have a heads up that there may be additional costs coming
Yeah,
in
I
that
was thinking
space.
about that too, but I think with the appeal timeline, folks have to go to the Board of Assessment Appeals that won't normally require legal counsel. And then appeal to Superior Court, so that by the time they get to Superior Court and we have to retain counsel, it will be in a new fiscal year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because they can't appeal until they've gotten the bills, their actual bills.
Town hall, oh, I'm sorry,
Any more
page
money?
3. Town hall landscaping is 100% spent. Maybe that's just because we
No,
got,
That's 100% left.
I'm sorry,
No dollars have been spent.
no dollars spent.
So we didn't
That's
clean the leaves up.
The town hall landscaping, Public Works did some of that.
Joanne can have some of that money.
Somebody comes in and trims the bushes in the
Yep.
spring.
Let me ask Martha, we mentioned this before, the beach cleaning for a bunch of reasons was way over this past summer. You know, from the $11,000 budget to 18,400. And I don't remember your answer to the question. Do you think we were being treated fairly? Did you think they did a good job? And do we have any alternatives in terms of going forward?
Don Bugby did reach out to, someone local, see if they would take us on. And they said that they had enough business and they didn't want to, for next year. Anthony's beach cleaning was the only one that responded when Harry had passed away. We needed to find someone. So he did. I'll tell you that I was at Soundview and walked the beaches in the morning after we cleaned. I thought it looked beautiful, but I was never really there when Harry had done it. I did watch Harry's buggy go around once, but I never really got down to the shoreline to watch the result. So I didn't really have much to compare it to. I didn't hear any complaints, but I know another beach that I think used, I think it was Foxnet, started to use Anthony's and switched to someone else because they didn't like what he was doing for them.
Do you know who the someone else is? I didn't think there was anybody.
I don't think I wanted to get into it here. Because
Okay.
the local person we asked, he said they could
Yeah.
do us. So,
But in terms of the contract that we have with Anthony's, the overage of $7,000 is consistent with the terms of the contract?
yeah, remember, Don came to us and talked about the fact that it was gonna go there.
I just don't remember what the contract said in terms of what they were gonna do for,
He gave us a daily rate for each beach and, there's different times of the year, not so often in May, not so often in September.
But the.
I really didn't start
But then we-
playing until after school got out.
So.
And we needed more, in fact, we needed more than we had contracted for.
We just,
The
This
the
is
daily
what we
price
did
is higher.
contract for. We just had, when we did the budget last year, we didn't have to have contract, Harry had to pass away.
Okay,
so
So we still had Harry's numbers. And then
oh,
when
okay,
June arrived, we needed to hustle and find a new person.
righty. I'm on emergency management on page 9. And we have, most of the line items have virtually nothing spent. Is that just an accounting question, I assume?
Mr.
Roberts is in the room.
Well, it's,
Is he the one with the mustache that goes?
Yeah, it's all
I'll
the
press
rest
that.
The emergency management account, has spent only $5,000 of its $35,000 budget, according to our books and records. So the question is whether that's true. You really haven't spent any of these line items. Well, I can read them all to you. EM wages.
I think this was brought up last month, I believe. And we talked about the fact that the wages are done
Like,
The wages, but all the rest of them.
annually or something,
Yeah.
that she charges it back. So that's a third of the budget right there.
Mhm.
That doesn't get posted to this account until the end of the year. He's paid, but it doesn't, I don't know why, but
Because it's
we asked the
split.
same question last
Yeah.
month.
it's
Split
split
between
Like,
fire
Marshall and the emergency
fire
services.
marshal
Right.
and, yeah.
So
So years ago, it was a combined effort, take the 10,000 from his stipend for emergency management and add it to his hourly wages from fire, and he's paid out, so he paid out 30 hours per week, evenly throughout the year, instead of just a stipend check
and
and 30 hours.
Right.
So
So it just evens it out for him.
But does that mean that the fire marshal budget is over at this point in
No,
time?
because
Because they take the two
numbers
numbers and combine them and figure out how to pay him. So it's like it'll hit at the end of the year, the EM wages will start to go down. Second half of the year.
They pay him from the fire marshal first
And then,
account, and then when that's depleted, they come over and they use this account.
But that would imply that the expenses on the fire marshal's account
Should be
are
close.
higher.
It
than
is.
They normally.
If you look at the percentage remaining, there's only 54% of the fire marshal's salary remaining. So that's more than should be at this point in the
A
year.
little bit more.
Yeah, it's enough. I mean, it's $1,000 a month stipend.
Mhm.
So it's an extra $1,000 a month. So it's,
I have,
Is there an answer?
Yeah, on, when you have the lower section, that's mostly spring expenses. From, yeah, repairs, maintenance, down, we usually take care of in the spring. In
Okay.
regards to the other one, the River Cog and the dam program, those were inserted into my budget last year. They're not something that we normally, resolve in the past.
Right, the dam inspection is one that's gonna be every 5 years.
Every 5 years.
we'll have
And
to.
then, so we would, it was the first time, right, we're doing a catch up on it, and then the other one is River Cog sent us, for the local matching.
The River Cog is that every 5 years, River Cog rewrites the regional hazardous material or hazardous mitigation plan to all the budget communities. And in the past, that was paid from some account.
Okay, but then,
My line.
then these numbers are reasonably accurate. It's not simply that we haven't posted expenses.
I haven't seen a bill and I haven't seen any invoicing and I haven't seen anything.
Okay, well, that's good.
They're creating line items, or they're creating line items to be able to draw from when and if we get
Mhm.
our funds are filling for participation. In the case of River Cog. The rest is pretty much on top.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more that's maybe just something to keep an eye on page 14. The recycling department in general is at 39%, and we're less than halfway through the year. So I know we've gone over on that before.
Correct.
So maybe just something to be aware of as we're going into budgeting season, that there's maybe not enough in there right now.
You're saying for recycling all items?
Recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
Is the committee very
Buyers.
active? Yeah.
First.
It's from one of those things too that we have to start to think about whether we want to raise our rates. You remember there is.
There's revenue on the other side. Yeah.
revenue
Which is
on the
up.
other side,
Yeah.
You talked about, yeah.
And then they send us this cute little bill that is literally.
Yeah. We've just had to go to town meeting for that one before. So,
So
yeah.
we should probably take a look at it as we go through budget. I haven't met with Ben yet, but he will be the one that will approach that with us.
Is there a recycling committee?
Good question.
There is a waste and recycling committee. Mr. Behringer sits on that committee. They're, I would say they're refocusing their efforts.
We're regrouping.
They're
We
regrouping.
lost our chairperson. Yeah.
Lost their chair. They took a hiatus over the summer months. And then we would come back and met together and we're gonna try to just work on one particular thing. I think that was our goal, right? On that in November.
Well, and also suggesting hiring a recycling coordinator. So that's something we may have to consider. Yeah.
Not full time.
The only other question I have on page 11, I can just state this, that the overtime balance left for the resident state police is 37%, 37%. And the balance left for rangers is 33%. So my question is whether that's consistent with the seasonality of both of those things. The resident state trooper is gonna spend more overtime in the summer, and the rangers are gonna spend most of their time in the summer.
The Rangers are in the summer, yes. The Rangers are basically the summer and they come back in May, the end of May.
They only have
They do about a month.
Okay,
a month of wages for the rangers.
The overtime for the state, the resident state trooper, that goes off of coverage. They call them in and they do the coverage. They call them in, and I know that because they had a shortage of officers, they probably call them in more time, and that's the pain, and that's coverage.
fair enough. So the question is whether this raises a potential problem that we should address or
We
discuss.
hired someone. We did hire somebody.
Okay.
So they're at the academy now. So
Graduate to be in January.
we should be,
But is that gonna, it doesn't, maybe that might not solve the overtime problem.
We don't have anyone, so we don't have anyone that's here from 11 until 7. So if they get 911 calls during the night, somebody has to come and cover us. And
So that's this fee they charge us when we call 911.
for when they have to bring an officer in.
That's one that's scheduled though. If there's an emergency call at 2 a.m, do we get charged for
We
that?
shouldn't get charged.
I don't think we get charged for that. My past knowledge.
They bring in more than one. I'm not sure. The bill comes to Anita.
I thought that's,
And we can sit and chat with Matt Weber. I do also think that some of that overtime is from Matt as well.
yeah.
Well, I would assume that is mostly,
I
it's
would assume
resident
that's what
state
it
trooper,
is.
so like, I just would
He
be
has to
surprised
cover
that
a
if you
shift.
called the state troop,
Yeah, I don't think
that
that's,
they come and then charge us overtime fees on,
I bet they don't charge Lime and they don't have a resident trooper.
yeah,
They
that
don't pay any,
doesn't,
they don't have any police bills, so they, the state police go up there on a call.
I'll straighten it all out for you by
So-
January.
Yeah, or just think about it. to determine whether
I think it's
there's
probably that.
an ongoing use of overtime that can be
We
mitigated.
also had a new billing person, and then for some reason she was sending the bills to Chamber of Hope, and all of their being bounced back. She then finally found me, and this is a year later. So all of a sudden, I got a bill, and it had like August and September dates on. And I was like, where were the bills last year? What happened?
And we haven't gotten any recent one.
I don't remember the last one, but it's where they bunch them together, a bunch of months together. And then send them out. It's the most confusing looking thing.
Anything else on the financial reports, anybody?
I have
Diane?
two quick ones here. One's on page 6, land use. Looking at the legal fees on inland wetlands. Is that something it's just that they've almost spent all their money. Is that likely an ongoing or
Probably.
maybe other things gonna happen?
It's okay, I got it. Land use, there was a cease and desist filed by land inland wetlands. So there was some legal work that had to be done by their attorneys.
So is that gonna continue, I guess, is the question.
It could continue.
Okay.
If the issue was not been resolved, meaning with the hearing was continued to next month.
Okay. And one other one, next page on page.
Before you go off that,
Okay.
so if we're almost spent, I think I would just,
What line, where are you?
the legal inland wetlands, so it's 221,
Yep.
and it's, the percentage left is 2.6%. So I would just say, if you think that they're gonna overspend it, we're gonna have to deal with that.
True, but I think that may see that planning and zoning.
Okay.
May not legal there, may not add up at the end of the year.
Okay. So that's fine.
It can be really variable.
Eric, you haven't met there, that's what we'll sit down and ask.
Okay.
And one other quick one on page 7, on the Public Works vehicle fuel. It just looks weird that we spent 50%, we spent $15,000 for the year and 12 of that was last month.
Okay.
Is that a billing thing?
What happens with public works fuel is they pay all the bills. And then once a quarter, Ed brings me the usage report. And then we credit his account and the other accounts that have used it, get the money put into.
The expense, so police.
Quarterly, it's
ambulance.
expense.
He pays it whenever the bill comes.
Right, but in
It's
terms of,
adjusted quarterly.
okay,
So,
got it.
yes.
I figured that was probably what it was, because they're not overspent. It's just weird. Yeah.
So I have a couple things on the fund CPF report. In the column reval,
Page.
it's just a 1-page report.
Capital project.
First page.
There is a special, the very first thing.
Right. So on the
Technically,
fourth
this-
column, reval has almost $200,000 left.
Mhm.
Is the reval done?
The reval is done, now they're working here and they're doing their
Still
Okay.
bills.
So that,
And they just finished up, there are other aspects that final bills will come in when those hearings and things are done.
Plus, this is a fund, so we have to keep adding to it. This isn't like a budget line item, because this is a capital, like, this is a fund, so every year we add into it because it costs so much.
So we keep building it.
Yeah,
for the
so we
next
build
five
it for the
years.
next one.
reval,
Yep.
yeah.
So park and rec equipment, they have $129,000. We gave them in the middle, right down the middle of the page. It's a column.
In the middle, it says 26, like in the middle, there's like a fund number for some reason underneath the fund rather than at the top.
In the back, yeah.
Yeah, okay, oh, this one, got it. Okay.
And so they have $129,000. They hadn't really spent anything. And we did an inter-fund transfer and gave them another 30.
We did that because that was the Vivo
Yeah.
playground.
Oh.
Budgeted for.
So the Vivo has a deposit on it, we have to do the final payment when we're ready for it. And then also the playground, which there was supposed to be there's also a deposit, well, I don't even know if they put a deposit on the playground, but there is a quote.
And that's all I.
They'll be coming before you because they have to do some other things first before they can get this. But
Is this also where the White Sands Beach replacement gazebo is supposed to be?
No.
No.
Where's that? That's in the regular budget? Okay.
So while we're asking questions like that, where does the crib end up? Is that, I would think that'd be a capital.
It's not a fund
It's not a, this is a fund. These are just funds that
at the
we
end of the budget.
continue to put money in.
Capital.
Yeah.
You have capital that is included in the report and general fund report.
Okay.
Separate line items. And then you also have the business line one, everything that's down here, we're doing budgeting, like what is spent out of these other funds. What is allocated, what they're not gonna use, what they have used. And I'll do it again this year during budget season. What, this is just giving you a quick look at what they're doing monthly. And then when budget season goes, we'll tell you what they still have in this kind of detail, what's on hold, what is the working with. And what projects are still, and what money they do not need anymore.
Anything else? Okay, thank you all. I'm glad you read these. So the next item under other business is the Emergency Operations Center request.
And
We-
can I also send you that other Rogers Lake Authority
Yep.
request, so you
Yep.
might want to amend the agenda to
have
add
that under their business if you choose to.
Sure. Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes,
think?
you did.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to add Rogers Lake Authority to the, under other business, the 6B.
Mhm.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
And
I'm sorry that it was late, but we didn't get final numbers till December 12th.
No problem. No problem. Okay. Dave, do you wanna come up and talk to us?
Sure.
We get a threefer.
With chairs.
So Dave has through me distributed a bunch of information. Hopefully folks have had a chance to look at it. But before that, Dave, do you want to make any kind of overarching comment about this?
Martha, if you could pull up the slide deck.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to share my screen. Hold on.
Hi, John. I'd like to introduce Rick Wilson, who's filling in for Vanna White tonight. Work with us on this.
And who's the woman to your right?
One of the other committee members of my team,
Aha.
Bonnie Green Snyder. Well, as you know, I sent out a ton of information to everybody to try to share as much intel as I could beforehand, because I know we're looking at big numbers and individuals will kind of look at it and start asking questions in the middle of it. So I tried to provide as much pre-data as possible. As you know, originally the EOC was down in the basement in the old building here. Then in 1992, it moved up to Mountain Road and it served its purpose up there for 32 years. Through a plethora of storms, I can go back as far as 2010. And I included that in the narrative summary to give you an idea on how many we had used for. This is the artist rendition. Last year, you afforded us the opportunity with funding to hire an architect for design, after going through the painstaking source of interviewing architects, the committee made a decision to take the approach of a design build capability. And we incorporated the design capabilities of Point One Architects along with Newfield Construction. And we awarded them the design portion of the design build. The architect's rendition here shows a single-story addition based upon the front of the existing firehouse at 189 Boston Post Road. Martha, if you would click. This is the existing building that's up there. You can see the void, that recess space on the right side of the photograph where the 3 windows are. That is the existing area, and what we're proposing to do is put a 1,500 square foot 3-room addition on the front of that. It fits within the requirements of zoning with the setbacks. It fits within the the property fits within the requirements of what Ledgelight needs for a septic system. And the design that we came up with makes it more useful and versatile than what we have now. We can go to the next slide. For the last 20 years, we've been operating in about 370 square feet. The room on the left is a /conference room /operation center. It is approximately 12 by 15. And the communications room, the photograph to the right, is a 10 by 17 space. During any one of those listed storms, or when we activated or we trained or we exercised up there, we've always had a minimum, probably anywhere between 6 and 10 people spaced between those two rooms. As Assistant Chief Duddy sitting in the back can attest to, after about the 3rd, 4th day of a storm, the room's fragrance gets a little different, and we're constantly telling people to take the garbage out. Back to reality on this. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Those are basically the renditions of what we're existing or working with now. We can go to the next slide.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Sorry.
As I said, we're proposing to put with a design of a 1,500 square foot addition on the front of the building, which is basically this addition here. That division or that addition is broken up into three separate rooms. One being the main operation room, which is 23 by 37, I believe. The room below it is a conference room, which is 11 by 19. And then a third room here for office space is a 11 by 11 room that we're designating in for our call center. If you remember the photograph of the communication room, the slide before, we had 4 people working in there. 1 communication specialist or dispatcher, 1 doing computer work, and 2 people sitting on the left side, basically answering calls that we put up on our call center. So during a storm or emergency event, if you have an event or you have something you want to reach out to us, instead of calling town hall and having phone calls come in there, we reroute phones directly to that call room where individuals can take the information one by one. And it alleviates a lot of the phone calls coming into the selectman's office. Well, looking at that, we feel that it's a well-utilized design. We're not touching anything of the existing building, the communication room, as you can point out there, Eric. This one is still the same. The existing conference room will go back to being a conference room for small conference sitting or break room, and the bathrooms are still the same. We're adding a pass-through door, taking a window out, and doing a pass-through door from the new addition into the main space, and also another pass-through door going in from one room into the communication room. We'll be adding a third door up on the top of the apparatus space, and then the fourth area down at the main entryway would serve as a control point and also simultaneously somewhat as a airlock per se, allowing that with people passing through, going in, going out, going in during winter storm or low temperature sides, it could be able to control the heat temps a little better than just opening the door directly to the outside. Next slide. One of the things that the committee wanted to do is we didn't want to lock it into okay, this is the floor plan. This is how it's going to be set up forever. We came up with modular furniture utilization. So all of those tables are 3 foot by 6 foot folding rolling tables where they can be manipulated and positioned in multiple different configurations. What you saw on the back on the first slide there, where they're pointed out, was basically an operational layout. Here we have what's slide 2, or that one's defined as huddle. So you could break this out into, if we had different issues of medical, fire, EMS, public works, they could all work in their own huddle area. Conference room layout up on the top, large discussions or multi-agency responses sitting around there. Down on the lower left, we have classroom environment sitting there. That little triangle that you see is a projection, ceiling mounted projection system, which would project off directly onto a screen wall. And then the fifth one is a combination of both, having huddle and operational setups. So the room has a lot of versatility. The conference rooms, as you can see also, the configurations there, they can both have a conference room. We can have 4 separate spaced out workstations, or at the top left, we can have 2 additional huddle spaces. So it gives the floor plan the opportunity to have multiple configurations and the possibility for multiple uses. Looking at this, one of the things we're looking at is, besides using as an operational area, being able to transfer or allow or have fire department, EMS, PD have a classroom environment if they wanted to do classroom training, or if they wanted to do other types of training. Some of the other configurations up there, in the event of the worst case scenario, something happening to this town hall, how do we continue with continuity of operation, the continuity of government? How do we, if we can't physically use this building for whatever reason, how's payroll get done? How's bills get done? How does the front office continue to operate? We have that ability to be able to relocate into these areas and create workspaces for all the major departments that are in, still within town hall. And we're able to communicate out effectively between the advancements of technology. If we go to the next slide. This is a configuration of how we're improving our technology so that we have up there. You'll have multi-screen, you'll have fiber internet, you'll have wireless internet. We'll have our own server up there to be able to basically, for my operational staff, the process is just walk in, grab a workstation and grab a computer and start being able to go into it. It has multiple versatilities to it. And we work very hard going over a year with architects and architectural concepts. Did some field trips to visited other emergency operations centers, both here, East Lyme and other areas. And we came back, and this is the design that the committee overall thought of and came up with. And I think that's your last slide.
It is.
Okay. Thank you, Vanna.
Well, you probably haven't signed a contract with Newfield yet. You're waiting to get approval, right?
Right now, we are under contract with Newfield for the design portion of this project.
That they've subcontracted to Point One.
They're working with Point.
Mm-hmm. And how much money has the town appropriated so far for this project?
Last year, you appropriated $100,000 to emergency management line item for architect and engineering costs. And currently, we're about $60,000 into that $100,000 asset
And that's all we've appropriated so far?
is $100,000. So, and that was earmarked designed solely for the architectural and the design capabilities of this project.
Right. And so we're talking about a town meeting approval, right? And the Board of Selectmen has reviewed this and supports it?
We voted 2-1. One person chose to abstain last time. Is in favor of the project, but is concerned about the timing of this along with our other budgetary expenses.
Fair enough, but the 2-1 carries or the.
2-1 carries and was the consideration because our funding from FEMA expires in March of 2026. So it's not like you can put the shovel in the ground in March of 2026, the funding ends. You have to wrap up the project. So we have to be in the building by March. That's $705,000.
Fair enough. So the decision for the Board of Finance is whether or not to recommend this to a town meeting. We don't have the power to approve it tonight. Okay.
Basically, I've also provided you with a breakout of the estimated construction costs, the furniture, fixture, and expenses, right down to proposed cost for the builder's risk for the town. Overall project cost is 1.464 and change. And also, we looked at the way the Board of Finance currently has recognized that the 32-year-old building does have an antiquated boiler system and a 30-year-old roof. And I'll let Eric stand to explain that.
Yeah, so in that
facilities
packet of stuff that Dave had sent over last year at budget time, you guys put 10,000 into capital to put towards the boiler. Replacement. We need to replace it regardless of anything else, but if we're going to be doing the overall big project, this is the time to do that. The roof also should be replaced. We're not, it's not leaking today, but there's millions of dollars of equipment underneath that roof. So this is the time to do it. If the EOC gets done, part of the roof would be, this section here is included in Dave's cost. This section here, and then there's 2 elevations on the back of that are not included in that cost, and that's the.
Martha, if you go to one slide forward.
What's that?
Gives you the isometrics.
Yeah, so it would be this 1, 2, and then the far side would
It's all
be
the existing roof.
existing. So everything that's touched here is included in that, the builder's, price there. So for that additional, I think it's 28.5, we got 2 quotes for the roof, and then also 2 quotes so far for the boiler replacement, and that's the additional cost in
So
that.
Eric, is this the boiler that we talked about last year that was running out of replacement parts and the possibility of fixing it in the future was questionable
Yeah,
because
so that
of the
boiler-
availability of parts?
Minor stuff can be done, put a Band-Aid on it. Major stuff, we run the risk of not being able to get parts.
In terms of the roof, there's a statement in here that suggests or indicates that postponing the replacement of the roof would likely result in increased cost of replacement. And is that just because of inflation or because of replacing the roof during this construction activity is somehow more efficient than replacing the roof as a standalone project?
Probably both, definitely inflationary, because, costs don't go down. So the longer we put that off, if say the town approves doing the EOC and then we don't do the other, that's really not a good practice to have 3 sections of roof that are 32 years old, and now we're capping, going to a cap with brand new stuff. That not make sense for, the scope of the project.
When you look at the shingles,
Yes.
other than their age, do they, I mean, it seems to me that roofers can look at shingles and say, these have to be replaced based on their appearance. Is that true here?
So if we weren't doing the EOC, I would not say we need to do it, you know, in 2025, 26 timeframe. We could probably, you know, stretch it out.
Mhm.
The fact that if this project moves forward, we should do it at the same time. So all the entire roof system is of the same age. It's the same lot stuff coming, you know, we're not now trying to get, you know, shingles again, you know, to match and, you know, that sort of stuff. So I think it's just a prudent way to do if this project gets done. Like I said, it's not leaking, but what happens when it does, or something in a storm, it blows off, and, you know, there's no way to tell if we have a hurricane, and, you know, half the roof could come off, you know, we don't know, you know, if we had a crystal ball, it would be great, but that's just my recommendation from a facility standpoint. If that moves forward, we should definitely do that to protect our assets that's underneath it. And in conjunction with the EOC Center getting done, with the roof getting done, we've already replaced windows down the left side of that building this year. All the other windows will be replaced. Our building envelope will be basically in the best shape we can possibly be, other than, you know, painting, some maintenance. But from a protection standpoint, we would be in really good, you know, that building would be in great shape.
Thank you.
Was this the only location that's been considered for this?
Due to the infrastructure that's already in place there, the cell tower, the fiber connections, the backup generator, being out of the flood zone, taking the police department and taking Cross Lane Station off the table because they're in flood zones. Public Works, we would have to start from scratch there. So yes, this is looking at other spots, yes, we have. Looking at the most optimal spot, this is the most conducive to be able to put this addition on without building new, completely from scratch.
Well, I mentioned this at a Board of Finance meeting, I think in the spring, when we approved the money for the budget. There's a lot of empty office space in Old Lyme. I realize it's not town property, but we're talking about $1.5 million. Was there consideration given? Obviously not, to looking in Hatchett's Hill. There's an empty space there.
Look what you're referring to,
I think renting.
Yeah, renting.
That's right. Yeah. Looking at it from a rental aspect,
Mhm.
I don't know what the building configuration is in regards.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
We looked at building $1.5 million project. And I did mention it, I don't know if you recall, Martha, at one of our meetings. Please consider this. There's a glut of office space that is probably available at significantly less money than it would have been 10 years ago. And I realized keeping town stuff on town property, that's important, but we're talking $1.5 million when there's probably space, 1,400 square feet, that could be very easily configured in an existing building that is close to the highway, that is high.
For general office
Don't know.
space, yes,
I
I
can
agree.
finish. Don't know what the infrastructure is in terms of internet. I assume there's good internet conductivity out there and the other things that you need. I just think, again, $1.5 million without looking at other, maybe it doesn't make sense, but looking at other possible solutions to this.
Well, let me raise the $1.5 million is the gross cost, right? And we're getting grants, right? So FEMA, so my question for Dave is whether any of these grants are less than 100% certain.
Okay.
So,
Or to piggyback off that, would any of them be able to be applied to a correct.
Right. So
To setting it up.
That would be the question.
Buying paying for the infrastructure that's needed to have this as the operational center that you need.
To go backing up two questions.
Mhm.
To your first question about possibly using rental space. The fact that it's an emergency operations center, FEMA has certain guidelines and recommendations that have to be designed into an EOC versus standard office spaces. It's above and beyond the consistency of the current be established in the current building codes. We have to do more, we have to reinforce more, we have to hurricane proof more. And going into a rental space, we don't know what those conditions are on that structure. It may be structurally sound to the appearance, but remember, we're operating in this space at times when other buildings and other facilities and other items are getting damaged and destroyed.
But to counter that, that doesn't mean that those specs for rental space are not available.
Yeah,
You would ask the landlord and get those specs.
True. Yeah. And there's lots of civilian companies that operate in very, like, they have very hardened things that work in all conditions. They're like insurance companies, things like that, like emergency operation centers that have hundreds of TV screens that have like multiple back, like you can get it in the civilian world. So.
Now going forward to PJ's question on what's the cost. The 1.464 is the current estimation of what the construction costs will be. These numbers have been run two ways. One, by the estimator, running through estimator programs with Newfields, and also reaching out to subcontractors and actually submitting out the design development drawings and say, what would it cost for your involvement in these, for these divisions, electrical, masonry, whatever. So they had a realistic estimate and they had a computerized estimate, and they combined the two together and they were pretty close, but that's the number, that's a 4.64 number that they're proposing is not to general or overall not to exceed. On top of that, we put some money in, as Eric discussed earlier, regarding the boiler replacement and finishing the roof. So it brings it up to 1.3. Out of that,
1.5.
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I don't have my glasses. 1.5. Out of that, going to BJ's question, what is the outside funding sources to help support this? It's over $912,000 coming from FEMA, ARPA, and the Nuclear Safety Emergency Fund, which is down in your lower right-hand side of that number.
BJ's question was not the amounts. We've got them right here of the grants. I think his question was, are you 100% confident that you will get these?
Yes.
I made him call. Because
There was a question asked last week with the change, the political change of administration in the federal government. There was question about that. If grants and awards are out there now, there might be a possibility of those awards being rescinded with a new administration coming in. This contract with FEMA was signed under fiscal year 2023. State of Connecticut is the grantee. We are the sub-grantee. So our numbers are our funding, and this funding for that fiscal year's appropriations and awards is locked in. It cannot be taken back. And I believe, Martha, I sent you a copy of an email stating that from the state. So there's no, I'm sorry, we're rescinding this or canceling this award process. It is locked in.
Dave, you say the $708,000 FEMA grant represents 75% of what?
75, back in 2015, when the first grant cycle came out, congressional discretionary grant for emergency operation centers, it was based upon 100,000 or 100% reimbursement. In 2015, we submitted an application with estimated numbers, courtesy of Enterprise Builders, who worked with me to put together some realistic construction costs. And we put it in at 1.02 million. Out of that, we took out the furniture, fixture, and equipment costs, and it came down to $945,000.
Yeah.
That's where the application was submitted at. In 2015, 2016, we did not receive the award. In 2017, the application became renewed with the federal government, and in 2018, they awarded us the $945,000 award minus a new change of a 75-25 split.
Well, it is 75, the 700, you're right, is exactly 75% of the 945. And I'm inferring that we can't go back because the project is increased and say, can we have some more, sir, please?
At this point in time, we are again locked in on our award percentages. And these, I do have three other funding streams to help support this project.
Yeah.
Looking at it down the road at the net cost at today's estimate, 609,000 net to the town is an expense. It's a big number.
Well, and I think to Andy's other point, have you explored whether these grants would apply towards outfitting a rental space?
It has to be town
It has to be
property,
town
municipal
property.
property. This could not apply to a rental space.
Could I ask a question about the rental space? What would you anticipate rental space costing for something like this?
I have no idea what it is in Old Lyme.
I can tell you that the property that I worked at 10 Vista Drive, we were paying $2,200 a month for two rooms and, two bathrooms, a small kitchenette and a conference room, 2,200.
Okay.
It was something I brought up last spring during our budget process, and obviously that didn't go anywhere.
Well,
Which is a little disappointing that we didn't at least
I did mention,
check.
I mentioned it today.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
If the grants didn't cover it, I feel like they probably wouldn't have spent time necessarily figuring out pricing and things like that. If you knew that like you had this money on the table and they'd been working on it for like 10 years, so.
I will tell you that the age of the buildings on Vista Drive probably are not anywhere near as far as the building code, as far as windows.
Yep, that's fine.
I'm guessing 30,000 a year to rent something, a space like that, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to compare things a little bit.
right. Tony?
So over 10 years.
Just to add a little depth to this, this actually started, as Dave said, in 2015. And at that time, I don't know whether it was 2015 or 2017, we looked at other property. We looked at other locations. We did look at Public Works. There was some property available there. We looked at a building at the time that was available on Hatchett's Hill Road. And we even talked about combining it with the Ambulance Association because they were looking for a new building. So that was really the very early stage, and that we did look at other options. At that time, office space was not as available, and there wasn't a lot available on Hatchett's Hill.
Right.
So I think the grant was submitted based on this, because everything else we looked at was going to be so much more expensive, and the town did not have the appetite to buy land. You remember the land next door to this building was available, and we talked about it at that time, and there was no interest in acquiring new land. So this is the only building that can accommodate an addition that will suffice for this combination of training, EOC, and it's, I may be wrong about this, but it's my recollection, serving with CCM and being on these FEMA, hearing their talk about continuity of government, they really want the structure to be a hard structure that is the town's and the town occupies it. I think it's worthy of looking into for some things, but EOC, the place where town hall is going to relocate, if this, is washed away, it really, they want to see it something that's town owned. The structure is there, that the communications room alone has a lot of equipment in it, a lot of wiring. The technology is just, and it keeps getting more involved, and we're trying to plan for the space to grow. I mean, there's going to be room between the ceiling and a lower ceiling, so any wiring can be done without a high expense. It's they're really trying to plan it so this is as versatile as possible and not something that, well, we should have thought about that before. You know, try to get wiring in here for the new technology. It's impossible. We're trying to plan that, but I do think that because we were looking at all of this 10 years ago, we were trying to think of all of the options.
Right. And the rental market was very different then.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why,
So,
you know,
I think that it's an excellent question, and it would be nice to be, you know, dot our i's and cross our t's, to have somebody run the comparison number. But I'm, not being a real estate expert, would be surprised that we can buy a piece of real estate with a 60 or 70% discount and be worse off than renting it. And I just asked my computer here, well, what would a $600,000 mortgage at 7% interest cost? And the answer is, for a 30-year loan, it would be $4,000 a month. So 4,000 times 12 is 48,000 compared to what did you think? Maybe 30,000 for rent. So it would be an increment of $18,000 a year to own the property at the end of 30 years, rather than still be a tenant. And who knows what the rent increases are going to be over a 30-year time period. And the fact that this isn't a temporary facility. This is a facility presumably that we want forever. I'm just saying that my gut tells me this is probably the right deal, but and so I would favor putting it to a town meeting, but the questions are excellent.
if I can add one final thing.
Yeah.
When we started this committee, we already had the grant and we had such a tight timeline. We had to move forward and get the design going so that we could break ground when we need to break ground. We're all ready. We feel like we're behind the 8 ball and we're worried about accomplishing all of this. We have to keep moving forward. So it's nice to think we had a couple of months or, 6 months to compare things, but we didn't have that timeline once we were able to get together.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't interpret anything as criticism of what you folks have
no,
done.
I'm just,
I don't take it as criticism either. I think it's a worthy.
Would any of these spaces be able to be used for other organizations or even boards and commissions? I mean, I do think sometimes we are really tight in this building. And it would be nice to be able to use that space if it was scheduled as such, if you were like, yeah, we're not using it.
For
Meetings.
meetings.
Like the Rogers Lake Authority.
Yeah.
So much closer to that building than.
Just like, I just feel like that's a very large space to say we're only going to use it during emergency.
5 times a decade.
No.
Well, and like potential training and things, but like, I don't think the police and the ambulance are getting trained every day. So like, it just seems like there's gonna be a lot of time when potentially this space could be used by the rest of the town. I understand that there's gonna be a lot of equipment in there, but potentially maybe structuring it so that that stuff could be hidden away or locked away so that we could use it on a more regular, the conference room would be wonderful to be able to use. I'm not saying maybe some of the other stuff, but I just think that having a large space like that, like we know that we overflow into other properties in the town that aren't owned by the town.
Yes, and possible, two sides or side and a half of that coin. For its design use, it's designed for 24 seats. If you wanted to have a public hearing in there, you wouldn't have the appropriate spaces for people to come in. For boards, commissions, or to do meeting minutes or to do discussions or planning sessions, I don't see why not.
Okay, yeah, I think.
Yes, Martha.
I just also think that, one of the things that we continually worked on was pivoting some of this building. We had to, and then the 20, how many total seats? I thought we said 26 yesterday, but there's 22 people in this building on a daily basis on a full time. And to be able to switch over, it would still be on our network. Basically, it would be flawless if it was a laptop, we could just go
and continue to run town hall if anything happened to this building. Not that I've been planning on that at all, but it's just another pivot point that can happen if needed.
Not to add additional cost project, but, did you consider putting solar panels on the roof?
We did, but we're trying to keep the costs down. We met with Eversource and the initial outlay to be included into the project. We felt that if you decide the decision to do solar should be a standalone and not try to include it into this project.
Thank you. Good luck.
Not a similar vein, the heat pump.
Well, there would be, there's other,
Reduce the need for the size of the boiler or something like that.
Eric can answer that.
There is, currently there are, 3 split unit, that do provide some heat to the 2 existing rooms. And then the upstairs, there's the showroom room, as a supplemental. The rest of the heat is radiant and on floor. So there will be air conditioning, heat pump, which can go to a certain temperature, but at a certain point, they have to have it back. So and the new boiler isn't just serving the EOC addition, it's also servicing the rest of the building where the majority of the heat is through the floor and radiant. But there were heat pumps, a heat pump for that section for air conditioning, as well as heat to a certain outside.
Can I ask? Yeah, the ARPA money, when does that have to be spent by?
2026.
So that's kind of on the same time frame as the grant. The other thing, just from the design point of view, we're looking at the building as it is now. Those 3 windows are going to disappear. And so that room that's currently kitchen will have no windows.
The window on the right will be closed up. The window in the center will be converted to a door. And then the window on the left will be renovated as a pass-through window from the communication room directly into the operation.
But not a window to the outside world.
No. And if
The
you,
room is kind of,
if you go
not that anybody's in there that much.
go
That's gonna
to the,
serve really as a break room, a
Well, that's what it is.
area.
a breakout,
Yeah,
a huddle room.
yeah.
Martha, if you go back one slide.
Sure.
And the
first page?
point,
Yeah, first page.
went through the design process, the designers had a lot more windows for the addition, and we did cut that back because one is an expense that we don't need to have.
Yeah.
That, they don't need them.
Right.
We did look into.
I mean, I'm just looking at the existing space that I don't know how much it's used by the fire department.
There's not a window there now, but.
There's 3.
Yeah, the only on the front.
No.
On the side.
No, I know. Yeah, that's what I mean. Those 3 that are out front are going to be gone. I mean, that obviously there's going to be a 1,200 square foot block sitting there.
I don't think the fire department uses them.
No, that break room will still only be
They don't use that.
170 square feet.
Right.
And we'll be adding 3 windows in the front.
And when
When
we're
we're
doing
doing
a
a drill,
3 or 4 people that are on the other side of the table don't see out the window anyways, because they're facing into the middle of the room. So, they don't.
Just curious, in 2024, how many times did we activate the EOC in our
This year,
2024?
Doing drills.
I mean, not drills, just like, when do we have to have it? Because
we haven't we've had a very calm,
let me ask you this,
Stars.
in the last 2 years, how many times have we had to activate it?
But in the notes, it really went back to those early 2011, 2012, 13, 14, which is why in 2015,
yeah.
we went for this. I mean, it's.
Where do we end? 2022, we're just coming out of COVID. So I haven't really activated, we haven't had a storm event to be able to require the activation up there. We have done trainings and exercises in there.
Sure, yeah.
But I haven't had a major catastrophe since coming out of COVID so far.
So really, it's probably been activated 5 or 6 times in the last 13 or 14 years. snowstorm,
Yeah.
you know.
We had 2 hurricanes, definitely back to back.
We've got a lot of drones overhead.
But I think that's
When
kind
it
of,
froze in October
you know,
then, a couple years
let's say
ago,
it's 8 times,
canceled.
you know, we're talking in,
When was
and
that?
not that the weather, that those were weather patterns that we had then that, you know, not that that might not change, but
For its use.
I guess the other thing is, you know, we've seen 2 projects in town, Senior Center and Region 18. The bids come in significantly higher than expected.
How do we know?
How do we know these aren't going to be the same?
What did you say? Wait a minute, what did you say?
That we had the bids come in for the Senior Center and Region 18 had bids come in higher than anticipated.
And yet, we're on budget.
Yep, but
Okay.
here we are with another project.
No, we're under budget with a second town meeting and increasing the budget.
Well, yes, but we're under.
No, Region 8, Region
The
18
approach that
reduced
we took
scope.
here was different than what the town took in regards to the senior center project and also as Region 18 did with their renovation projects. They went out for architectural bids first. And then they let the architects come up with the designs of what they needed. After they had the architect costs and the architect's estimate, that's when they came to the town and said, this is what the $18 million or $1,000 we're asking for. You awarded that, then they went out and they hired a contractor to build it and to oversee it and build it. Once that relationship got together, the builder started looking at the architect's thing and saying, this may not work. This has to be changed, and back and forth.
Did you think of this?
Did you think of this? What are you going to do about that? They're a different set of eyes. They're builders, not designers. By doing that, what happens is the costs start to creep, either with requests for information, requests for change orders, requests for submittal reviews, slowly but surely, and then the projects come together. The architect and the builder finally meet someplace, somewhere on the timeline, and everybody's on the same page. But the cost is usually not.
That's not really what happened with the senior center. The Newfield, same contractor, was on board with the cost estimates for the senior center when we went out to bid. And it was very surprised at some of the bids that came back. Landscaping, for example, may have been $100,000 more than anticipated. It may have been some of the similar things with the
Region 18.
Region 18.
Yep.
In any event, but it's a good question, and I'll frame it this way. But I think I heard you say, so the question is, how good is the estimate? And I think I heard you say that this estimate is better than some because Newfield has already gone out to contractors and gotten estimates back from them, hopefully the prime contractors, right? So there's a higher degree of reliability than to having a cost estimator say, this is what we think it's going to cost. Nevertheless, we can ask Eric this question. What percentage of the time do you have the actual bids come back less than you anticipated?
You know, it's a loaded question, meaning that, you know, we're, the numbers that we got through this process, we're looking to start in 3 months with this set. You know, when the senior center, the number came in, then it goes, you know, then it's another year or 2 years after the fact, and same with, you know, with Region 18. That's also, you know, doesn't get factored in. So with this, I'm fairly confident because of the process that they took.
And
He said that, you know, I can say, I'm gonna budget 50,000, then you go ask somebody, and it's much higher. They've already asked them.
Right. I'm just sort of snidely suggesting that almost always projects come in over what the estimate is. And so my question really for going to a town meeting is what number do we go with? You know, do we go to a town meeting with this? We have to approve the entire amount, but then tell the taxpayers that the net cost of the town is gonna be $600,000 and leave no margin for error? Or do we get authorization for a higher number? And if so, what number?
Looking at that, if you go to, the spreadsheet or the, package from Newfield on their breakouts and the divisions, they identify on the first page, they calculated in all the costs. And then in the lower section, you'll identify that they have a 5% design contingency. Being able to say, okay, once we get out of designing, we get into construction. If there's something that has to be redesigned, reconfigured, that cost would come out of that contingency band, that fund. It wouldn't be an additional, hey, and we need more money because we have to redesign this or redesign that. They did put a calculated factor into that. Also, if you scroll down on that, you'll see a 3% line item in there on construction.
Right, there is. So there's the total and then there's an escalation.
Yes.
2% escalation and
Now, on
about
the
24,000. So
on the construction contingency, again, if there's cost in material or cost in performing the construction activity, some of it would come out of that. In regards to the contingency, the 3%, they're looking at that as a possible 3% escalation of material and labor costs.
So there's about, the three of them add up to about 100,000, a little less than 100,000. So the question is whether that's enough, Martha, to go to a town meeting with comfort, or do you want to add some money?
I'll just add that when we met with Newfield and Point One at the meeting, we made it clear we needed a number that would take that into account because we can't go back to the town. We made it very clear. So they needed to add the contingencies. They needed to look at their numbers closely. As Eric says, once we get this, we're going to be starting to build right away. So there is a better chance that we're not going to have those bids come in high. Nobody can guarantee that they're not going to come in. If we have to, we're going to go back to value engineering as quickly as possible. But we made it very clear to them before they gave the estimates. We can't go back. So make it good. You know, is that threatening enough or not? I don't know.
Well, sitting across the street of Region 18, they're getting the Mile Creek bids in now. Mile Creek project, 22 million, is considered a small project right now in the state of Connecticut. With what the state is doing with DOT and other things, maybe this falls into a different category of contractors because it's not a school. It's not a big project, really. I mean, it is financially to me, but you know, a 1,400 square foot addition onto a building is not
Major contract.
major. I mean,
also the construction schedule on this is about 6 months from breaking ground to doing closing.
And that's all about timing in terms of what contractors are available to do the work. And that's something that's unknown.
That's true.
And there's the bids that we had for part of the project on Mile Creek. One of the bids was 2.5 times the other two bids. Obviously, that contractor didn't want the job.
Or any chance of getting it.
It just, site work was a big problem with all the schools, with being over budget. I just think timing, I know you've been working on it for a long time. In my mind, though, the timing of what everything else is going on here in the town of Old Lyme, and with the nice piece of mail that people got over Thanksgiving, that most people don't understand what that means or doesn't mean.
Double taxes for us. So we don't have
So, you know, it just, I think for us to be going back to a town meeting and say, oh, by the way, we want another $1.5 million, even though it's probably the smallest amount we've asked for at a town meeting for a major project. We're gonna ask for $1.5 million.
You gotta get
a question about the 600,000 too. Has anybody gone to Martha Marks or Devin Carney and asked if they're
There's no
toilet
state,
funds are available.
no state funding available for, EOC renovations or constructions.
But they have their own budgetary
Yes.
money that they can just say. And I know that they've put that towards things like this in the past, just to help limit town costs. And this is something that looks politically very pretty, you know what I mean? To say that you're helping the EMS and you're helping the fire and you're helping the police. So this might be something that even if they don't cover the entire 600, even if they just got 100,000 or 200,000, it would be a big
That's an avenue,
change.
that's an avenue that we could approach
Okay.
as we continue to move forward on this.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, being able to say, maybe we have the opportunity to do this, I wanted to be able to lock this. This is what we have.
No, I just wanted to know if you guys had
Yeah.
asked.
Are there future ones or other ones coming through that we might be able to tap into
Yeah.
to help reduce that at the end of the 2026? Yes.
Great.
Can I just,
And-
I'm sorry, Jay Kelsey has been texting me.
Okay,
So
I think he's on the call.
he's on the call, but he could call into my phone to speak. He'd like to say something.
but it's not
He
working?
said he can't unmute himself, and Katie, I know, took everyone to be able to speak because of public comment. So I don't know why he's unable to mute, but,
Well, if
I told him
anyone
if
can
he
hear
wanted
me,
to.
But you can put your phone on speaker.
I said that, so
Yeah.
Dave, if you wanna call,
Go ahead.
call my number, and then I'll just put you next to the mic and you can speak.
can you all hear
So
me
while
now
he's
or
figuring
no?
that out, I have a pretty simple question, I'm sure. At the top of the document, it cites 82,000 in owner's contingency at 6% and a builder's risk of 10,000. But I don't see those same numbers down in the
Where are you?
So she's
On your,
looking at these two.
Project cost estimate breakdown.
Those are the town's aspect. The town has to, purchase the builder's risk insurance. And we estimated in a 6% owner's contingency in addition to the construction and the design contingencies.
So those are included in these construction costs here.
The design contingency and the construction contingencies are included in that top number.
Okay.
We added in the cost that the town is gonna have to pay somehow to get the builder's risk insurance. And then we estimated in a 6%
Perfect.
owner's contingency on the owner's side.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I've been hearing you guys since 7:02. So unfortunately, I dialed into the two options and neither let me speak. So, but I appreciate it. So my only comment is, I think we should move to a vote. I think we've kind of explored everything, and I am not a seated member because Fred is seated for me. But I think we've kind of explored everything, and it's time to vote for whether we put this to the town or not.
Okay, thank you. Notwithstanding Dave's comment, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Not to belabor this, but with the furniture and fixtures and equipment, that number seemed kind of high, especially with the IT in there. Is there any way to shrink that a little bit? It's 120,000.
Okay, a 3-foot by 6-foot folding rolling table. How much do you think that is? Laminated?
I don't even want to think of.
About $900.
no, 598 from the senior center.
From one
Costco.
No.
And those are options.
That is not true.
It's,
Martha has just been intimately involved in buying furniture for the senior center. And when she gets involved, you get a discount, so.
but the 120,000 is earmarked or will be coming totally from the NSEP and Millstone Fund.
So follow-up was, so is the Millstone money dedicated to that?
To that FF&E,
So you can't shrink that and move.
I can't shrink it.
Right.
Just, I know you said when it expires, the FEMA grant the project has to be done by spring of 26,
March of 26, March whatever of 26.
just over a year.
And looking at it, we worked backwards with the design team and the build team. We worked backwards from that date, saying, okay, from March 26, I have to have all my reimbursement paperwork ready and into the hands of the state of Connecticut. Backing that up 60 days is gathering all of the final information that I'm looking to gather and put together in format. From there, going into January is our final closeouts, punch lists, and a little bit of extras or removals through January and back into December. November is the significant completion portion timeline for the shell, structure, and finishing the interior. From November backing up into April is 6 months. I got to break ground in March, end of March/April, to be able to start this project in the ground going. From that, working back again, we have to get bids out, bids reviewed, and bids finalized and contracts signed by February, March. February to January is moving forward with the design build team to put a contract together for a guaranteed not to exceed price for the build, which puts me back into January for the town meeting to have the fundings approved.
So everything has to go on schedule, and if it doesn't, we could lose the $700,000.
Yes.
Well, more than that, because there, a number of the grants have that.
Yeah. But the FEMA one's the biggest one.
Right,
And the first
FEMA's
one-
the biggest one,
first
the other ones
due-
are risk too.
Yeah, but the FEMA one is the big one and it expires first.
So,
Before the ARPA money or before. anything else.
ARPA comes out sometime in 26. FF&E funds from Millstone would go out June of 26. It's a very tight construction schedule.
right, so I think this is a good deal at the time from a pricing standpoint. And from a timing standpoint, the elephant in the room is the Region 18 construction, and that's not going away. If we postpone this for a year or 2 years, we're still gonna have
We're gonna own the whole thing.
that burden. So I actually think the critical question is, do we need this at all? And if we do need it at all, then I would be in favor of it. But I think that's kind of the issue. If you folks think we need this and the Board of Selectmen thinks we do and the committee thinks we do, then it seems to me it's reasonably priced.
I think you're right. There's wants and needs. And, you know, this would be great, but I don't know.
It's a tough, I mean, the gist of Matt's question was, how often does this get used?
Right.
And obviously, when something like that happens, you need.
You need it. You need everything.
But we have
But it
some
doesn't have-
functional.
Okay.
Like, how much of a risk are you putting the town?
It's
if they-
370 square feet of
Well, we don't have anything that functions if town hall goes down.
Right, well, people can take their laptops home.
But they're not on our network, so they can't do certain
Is it
things.
going to say something?
So, because we've been through that before.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just heard a squawk.
So I think that like, yes, do we have a sort of functional EOC? Yeah, but like we've seen when there have been situations that come up, that it is a challenge. And we haven't ever had a situation modern day when town hall can't function. So I don't know, I just
Contingencies we could build.
there are, but I think that this is something that we have the funds for. It is something that's necessary to the town. I think that, I just think that this is an important thing to have. Cross Lane Firehouse has a meeting space for some of our emergency personnel, but it's in a flood zone and you can't always get to it. So in an actual emergency, we do need a space and we currently don't have that. So I think we have been really lucky that we haven't needed that. But how silly would we all look if 5 years from now, even, there is a major event? I mean, we have an enormous surplus just in case we have a giant hurricane that comes by and kills out all of our half the town. We're happy to sit on that. Like, we could pay for this entire thing just out of that, no problem. And that's like, so I just look at this like, when do we decide, like, we're just going to sit on our surplus and not use it for its intended purpose, which is to protect us in the event of an emergency. And this is the next part of that emergency. Like, we're only going to have the money for it, but then we're not going to have the infrastructure to be able to do anything during that time. Like, I think this is important. I just think this is really important. I think there's been a lot of thoughtful planning that's gone into it.
But the bottom line in terms of the surplus is that the senior center, to an extent of $6 million or $5 million, our share of it, and Region 18 are, in the absence of the surplus, going to skyrocket our mill rate. So we're going to use this. We have plenty of uses for the surplus for other things. I think that's what people are sensitive of. But I do want to point out that the budget for interest income this year is $350,000, and on a year-to-date basis, we're headed for $960,000. So, from a budgetary standpoint, this year may turn out okay.
May I just have one more
Sure.
word? As far as needs is concerned, I don't really think you can look at 5 or 6 or 7 years and say, wow, how often have we used it? When we were using it frequently, and it was how the town functioned. Because town hall in blizzards is often closed. Everything does transfer there. We are running showers, we are running respite center at the senior center, but the center of all that, the command center, is the EOC. And every town is really encouraged by the state and by the federal government to get your EOC in order. That is command central in an emergency. And I recall back in the early 2000s, Andy, you may recall it, where we did these regular drills for pandemics on a regular basis. And, people got tired of it and they said, when are we ever going to have a pandemic? Well, it happened. And you know what? We stopped drilling and we weren't prepared. And I'm not saying the town, I'm saying a lot of towns took the same approach. It's just not going to happen. But we've seen these major storms. And let me tell you, when you're there for 5, 6, 7 days, because nothing is happening, it is a very, very important place to be. And to be able to function properly is the most important thing to the town and to the townspeople. Communication is so vital in those emergencies. At one point, we had the call center in the bays. These people couldn't even hear the people because the echo was so loud in there. And that's why I said, make that room for the call center where you can hear people. I mean, people call in and they're frantic, they're panicked. We're functioning in an emergency there. So I would say it is absolutely a need. It is not a want. We're asking for a classroom. So we're adding on, really.
Right, so let's go to a vote. And
Can I just ask one other thing?
Yeah.
The FEMA money is obviously a huge part of it. It's almost half the money. FEMA doesn't have any other grants out there available now.
For emergency operations, no.
Doesn't mean they won't. I know.
Doesn't mean they won't do it in the future.
I know they've spent a lot of money because of the catastrophes all over the country.
Doesn't mean that the congressional discretionary system or services that this is part of doesn't revolve again next year, where we can reapply for something else. I mean, maybe solar, maybe this, maybe that.
Getting away from the state, suggestions of our local senator and representative, it's really Courtney. I mean, that's really where the money is, because that's where the money came from and came to Connecticut.
Came from Blumenthal's office.
So, I mean, that's where we should be talking.
We have had a lot of conversations with Courtney's office. And again, they don't have, nothing's put together from FEMA going down to that level at the house level to be able to put it out. The only funding streams that came out since 2015 solely for EOCs was the senator's side, the senator's discretionary.
Let's go to a vote.
Should I give my seat back to Dave? I mean, it's unfair that he's not on because of the technical.
No, the process was wrong. It's fine, Fred.
Okay.
So the vote is on the question of recommending to a town meeting the approval of a project with an aggregate cost of about 1.5 million and a net cost to the town of about 40% of that. Is it 40%?
About 600,000.
Well, that should not be the motion, though.
No.
It should match the selectmen's motion.
Yeah. The town as a cost.
The motion isn't going to contain numbers, I think, but I'm trying to frame for the board what the decision will be. A $1.5 million project with an expected $900,000 coming from third parties. And ultimately, the voters will decide whether or not they want to approve it. So may I have a motion?
So moved.
Well, you just said, that motion, that's the wrong motion.
So
I
think
didn't make a motion, Dave.
I made the motion and I said it incorrectly. I would like to make a motion to send this project to town meeting for approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Any well, then no abstentions. So 4 to 2, the motion passes.
In January.
David, do you want to stay on the call or do you want to call back in via Teams?
No, this is much better, Martha.
Okay.
I will agree with Dave after going through the same thing.
Okay.
Give a glass of wine.
We have to teach that then.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of money on this and
Okay. Rogers Lake.
It works fine. It's sometimes on the other end. It's not always her fault.
no,
No, it's not, because if you're not on the
It's not a
network, it
perfect-
doesn't work great.
not a perfect technology.
Established.
Oh, I have copies. If anyone wants, I did run a few copies from Mark that he sent the December 12th figures. Does anyone want a copy?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Fred, you
I
want?
have it here. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want a copy?
I'll take one.
I could, you could share it.
Yeah, you can share.
Oh, no, here. Please use the paper.
Printed it, I don't know.
You guys need a copy?
I looked at it today online, but I didn't print it.
Sorry.
Okay.
You want to, hi, thank you for coming. You want to just give us a summary of what
this is?
what we have gotten in writing?
Yes. I was with you about a year ago, asking you to fund an improvement to the embankment so that we would not harm fish when we use the sluice gate. I think I mentioned then that ultimately we are going to need a permit from the state to actually use the sluice gate because we didn't have that. We've been in discussions with DEEP all this time to on how that would work. That has come to a head and they have asked us to apply for a permit, technically that permit is a water, non-consumptive water diversion. We're not really diverting water to the state. Any control of a water supply is diversion. So if you're just, reducing the level of the lake, that is a diversion. Part of that, to apply for that, we also need a water quality certificate. You actually received a water quality certificate in 2013 when they did the repairs to the dam. That actually is going to help us because the state have said we can basically use that study that was done at that time and update it a little bit. So which was surprising to me, the process of applying for this water diversion permit is very complicated. The application itself is a 7-page form. The last 2 pages list about 18 attachments that potentially could be made that include engineering reports. So we need support from Nathan Jacobson to basically be able to make that, to apply for it. So on the front of the page, just to walk through the expenses, the state charges a fee to apply. It's normally $6,250, but because we're a municipality, they give us a 50% discount. We have to provide a public notice that we're doing this. We need engineering support for the application itself. That'll range from $3,500 to $5,500. And as Davidson Environmental will help update the water quality report. And then separately, as part of the application, we need to do 2 things. We need to show that we can operate this safely. And we already have an operating procedure in place that we will update. Secondly, we have to show that there's a need. So we need to have a hydrology report showing how the lake level affects the surrounding areas in terms of the water table and potential flooding and harm to basements, yards, and potentially septic systems. And the cost to do the hydrology study is $9,300. It's fairly extensive. They have to go through all the geological reports. They're going to review the septic records that we have in terms of what type of septic systems are located around the lake. So that's, in sum, that's what we're requesting is up to $19,925 is basically a capital request. Because this is part of the use of the dam and the embankment. It all sort of works together.
So it sounds to me that although different consultants might charge different things, this is something that we have to do, failing which we're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. The numbers on this page don't jive exactly with the numbers in the letter agreements.
Oh, unfortunately,
for example, the flood engineering study has a price of $10,000 rather than $9,300.
I must have forwarded the wrong.
Yeah, you're looking at different because mine says.
It's got updated. Once we've been through this process a couple of
okay.
times. There's a revised letter that shows 9,300.
Well, October 28th, I guess.
Here you go. This is the new one, December 12th.
No, but there's another revised letter that shows from the.
I have this.
That was December 6th.
Yeah, there's one to say
Oh,
December
you
6th.
got yours, but it says December 6th because it still says draft.
Yeah. Well, in any event, so the letter agreement that I think was contained in Martha's attachment has a lump sum fee of $10,000, and you're saying that should be $9,300.
That is correct.
And the other one has a consultant's fee of $4,000 to $6,000 not to 1 to 1,500.
That has been,
Isn't that 3,500 to 5,500?
No, that's correct.
And the Davison Environmental's 1,000 to 1,500.
That's correct. Where's the number?
BJ, the one that we worked off of yesterday, Board of Selectmen's office.
here's the revised letter.
Sorry.
No, that's her memo. He's looking at their actual.
No, here's the actual quote from Jacobson that's been revised to reflect the numbers that are on the front of the request.
This is a December 6th
That's
letter.
December 6th, that's what I'm reading.
Revised actually 12/11.
Right.
So it was revised on the 11th, and that's, I guess, where the numbers on your email.
When we got confirmation that we didn't have to submit a brand new study, the cost went down significantly.
Fair enough. So your numbers are good.
My numbers are good.
I have more of a just, I guess, procedural question. Some Rogers Lake items get shared cost-wise with Lime. Would we share any of the cost of this with Lime?
I think we would. It's half their water.
Is there a yards that get flooded if we don't have a
Depends
dam?
on where the laws are that would possibly get flooded, I would assume.
Yeah, but
The dam,
the lake is the lake.
The dam is ours, so I
I
don't.
don't, the dam is ours.
Yeah, but the lake is the lake.
Right.
I mean,
The sluice way is what we're writing policy for.
I mean, it might just be something to
Yeah.
talk to Lime about.
Yeah.
We could
Did,
just,
did they pay for, I can't remember.
Without the
dam was
dam, they wouldn't have a
redone.
lake. I don't think they paid.
I don't think they did either.
Maybe
They should have.
paid for it, though.
They
That's on our side.
wouldn't have a lake in their
You
front
know,
yard.
but I mean, I think, I
You know, on
don't
Wood
think,
Street,
yeah.
there wouldn't be much water.
No, there wouldn't be.
Yeah.
No, it's,
that's a whole other conversation, Andy, that we could have.
No, I think-
someplace
I mean-
online.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
that's
it's a
why
real
I'm
good
just,
question.
yeah.
But we would still have to approve the gross
Right.
amount
So much.
Yes.
and then
Right.
hope to get reimbursed by Lime. Just like we do with the senior center and Town Woods.
I think it's good.
Only Rogers Lake is 50/50, isn't it?
What was the date of the violation letter from DEP in here? I just,
October 1st.
okay.
we actually received it on October 17th.
Okay.
It took a while to get from their offices.
I thought that was a curious date because October 1st happened to be the nadir of Rogers Lake. So Rogers Lake was lowered this year.
Right,
And on October 1st, it was down about 18 inches. So there could have been a lot of issues with fish at that time.
no, actually, there could have been, but the fish ladder was still operating on October 1st.
Okay.
So the fish could get out that way. And the sluice gate was closed and the water was way below the level of the spillway. So there weren't any fish.
Nobody's going over the top.
Nothing's going over the top. Unless they're jumping in that.
Yeah.
Well, I think regardless of your answer to this question, we should try to get 25% from
No, it's 50
50%. So we share Rogers Lake
is
50/50.
Yeah, 50.
because of the.
But my question is, if we don't get this permitted.
Right.
What happens to the lake and does that adversely affect the citizens of Lyme who live on the lake?
If we don't get the permit, we won't be able to use the sluice gate. So that means in the event of high water, you won't have that option to try to reduce the level of the lake through the sluice gate. Which means that there will be, like we had last spring when it rained 12 inches in March, a very high water table.
And wouldn't that adversely affect some homeowners in Lyme?
I would think it would, yes. I mean, the ultimate answer of that is from the hydrology report, but initially when we talked with the hydrologist last summer, he felt that there was a definite, the soils are permeable so that there's a definite pushback in water from a high level of the lake to a saturated, to an already saturated water table.
Mark, who determines when and how much the sluice is owned? Like who's the authority that's going to open it or close it or
Rogers Lake Authority.
Rogers Lake Authority.
Yeah. And we have 3 people that have keys and we talk together, and now after all that has gone on with DEEP, before we do anything, we contact fisheries and tell them what we want to do. And so the other issue that rightfully for DEEP and fisheries is when we open the sluice gate, we're not only affecting here, but there's 2 other dams downstream. And there's 2 other fish ladders downstream. And if we send too much water down, we can flood those fish ladders out. So fisheries division needs to know when we're going to do that so they can take corrective measures downstream.
But do you guys have to have specific expertise to manage this situation? It seems like it's pretty complicated.
Well,
or just a lot of experience.
It's just experience. We track the level of the lake daily, and we track the forecast. You know, we say in our operating manual to do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I think the people involved do it every day just to see how much rain is coming. So we have an idea of what we're going to be looking at. And then it's relatively easy to open up the gate. It's the difficult part that we need to fine tune, and the reason we had an issue last April is we thought we'd gotten so much rain for so long, we thought we were going to get an additional like 2 inches in that incident, and we didn't get it. And we didn't close the gate fast enough, so the spill level over the spillway went down, and some fish got adversely affected for that. We're changing our operating manual so that doesn't happen.
They apparently contacted DEP. They analyzed are smart.
They're very smart.
They hired lawyers, I guess.
I mean, we did harm 100 fish, but
to see the litigation.
13,000 of their relatives made it up to the lake this spring. So
those are the weak ones. They deserve to die. The seagulls were happy.
It's a buffet there during the migration.
Okay, any further questions? Comments?
I just had some questions on the violation letter. They've got a lot of dates in here and things. So I was wondering if you had a discussion with them about pushing any of these dates and getting a formal letter saying that it's okay that you don't apply within 90 days and all that jazz.
When we responded to this the first time around, they had 2 criteria. One, that we respond and say what we're doing. The other is that we complete the embankment by the end of November. We did both of those things. At the time, I responded and said, we're not going to be done by November. We have to go through, or by December. They did not respond directly to that. However, I have had Wade Thomas, who is the engineer at Nathan Jacobson, has been in constant contact with them so they know they are working on this. I'm supposing this, I don't know for sure, but my guess is DEEP isn't going to issue a letter letting us off the hook.
No.
Just because, they don't do that. So as long as we're progressing.
I would just ask, even if it's just through Wade, ask for a letter from DEEP that says that you don't have to abide by all these exact dates, just because if you don't, they are legally allowed to enforce penalties of up to $1,000 a day.
They are up to $1,000 a day, but that is the specific thing they cite is if we're in violation of the water diversion.
So if you're diverting water.
So if we're not diverting water, even though we haven't met their timetable, they can't charge us $1,000, I don't believe, because we're working on the problem. We're trying to work with them. And we're not actively doing anything.
Have you met with is there a DEP person in charge of monitoring this? And does that person seem reasonable?
Yes.
Brian, is it Brian?
Galams, yes, he is actually very reasonable.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. we've had a couple conversations with him
I
last
would
summer.
think they would be. I mean, this has gone on for decades.
Oh, yeah.
This ain't new.
Yeah, he's aware of that. He's sensitive to it. He wants to work with us, but it's, you have various divisions in deep. Fisheries got upset that fish were killed. They made the notice basically to the enforcement arm of deep, and the enforcement arm had to deal with it, come up with something, and they have.
You know, the letter sounds aggressive, and I'm assuming it's not that the individual isn't that aggressive.
No.
So as a result of all this investigation, is there a risk that they would make a recommendation to do something else that would be more elaborate and more expensive?
There has, yes, well, they suggested the possible that, it has been raised that this is, you know, as you mentioned, there's 3 people right now that basically do this. And there was a suggestion that it would be very helpful to automate that. And so there would be a cost if you tried to put, to put in basically an electric motor, to drive that gate up and down. When you try to go through the algorithm though of what would determine when that happens, it gets really
AI is smarter than you 3 guys.
AI, maybe if we fed it all enough data, maybe that could come up with an algorithm that would make that work. But when I sat down and tried to think about all the factors you have to consider, I don't know how, you could set up a program that would run that gate and be effective.
Like you said, you listen to the forecast in the spring and we're supposed to get 2 inches of rain and we got nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
So that's, so you need.
It happens.
Yeah.
AI also has to make sure they can get a hold of Steve to let them know that we're lowering.
What if they,
There's a lot of factors, but I think that the group, we've had about 5 guys on deep personnel on the calls with us. And they have been, just very receptive. When they think they have to play hardball, they throw a few comments in, but they've been,
We're showing good faith there, so.
yeah, we're working with them.
We're a municipality acting in good faith. We're not a cranky homeowner who's just polluting this river.
So before we move to allocate funds for this, should we clarify with Lime that we'd like them to pay half of this?
we gotta allocate the money
You gotta do it.
and
Yeah.
then hopefully Martha can get them, send them a bill. But we'd end up paying the whole thing anyway, so whether we get the money back or not, it's something that has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be done.
We have to,
We have to allocate.
we have to
total
budget the
amount.
gross amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion that we allocate $20,000.
We did.
No.
Just
We-
underneath 20.
We did.
We have to do 19,925.
We want the exact number?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we
Up
did.
to $19,925.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you, Mark. And I gather that the folks who do this are all volunteers. You guys don't get paid for this.
Yeah.
But it's a real chore. I
It's
mean,
becoming a bit of a job lately, yeah.
This really reduced my respect for the Rogers Lake Authority.
That's up to you and BJ, but BJ, can she make the transfer to 19,925? It's really supposed to be you said up to, but it's really supposed to be the figure, and then we can put anything back.
Yes.
And anything gets
Because
back.
I said that, because it's a lower estimate, that's why.
I know,
Yeah,
but we
you know,
made it 19,925 for Board of Selectmen last night, just to be safe.
Okay.
And,
I got you.
and Mark, I will, do we already vote? We're gonna-
Yeah.
We're just gonna need to stay, you and I are gonna need to stay on top of the Jacobson bills, because they can go.
Okay, no, definitely.
We need to monitor and pull them back if they start.
Going too far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask about that? Why do we only use Nathan Jacobson? Do we have a contract with them or?
Engineer, they were chosen.
The other,
Prior to my election, who was, picked by, Eric Knapp. There was a large interviewing team, that interviewed, I think we had 3. And come up with
that bid. And that's who was selected.
In this specific case, because they did the dam reconstruction, they have all the original soil studies, they have all the original engineering and all of that, so they are immediately up to speed and have the knowledge, in-house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They just started our dam engineering studies for both the dams to get them certified for 5 years. So that's all.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Mark, do you want me to send an email tomorrow to Wade, you and CC you, and tell him it's been approved?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
And then tell him, get going.
Yes, and then I've got I'm gonna get a timetable from Wade so we can report back to Deep as to where we are, that the funds have been approved and we're moving. Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Selectwoman.
Well, it's late. You don't
really want to hear me.
How fast?
I'll go as fast
Bridge
as I
version.
can.
Don't ask questions, we'll be good. Swan Brook, Sluice Way is under construction. Today they started again, driving some islands. I did get a phone call last week from Christian, everyone going more saying that they've run into a few problems because they didn't realize that, I'm gonna say the archaeological dig, they didn't realize there was so much old walls that was still stuck in the sand along the beach. So then when they were driving islands in, they were hitting remnants of old walls. He said, it's not that we don't want to do the project, but we want to do it right. So that means we have to sort of excavate, pull those out. So it's taking a little longer than expected. He said, we're going to talk again, but he said, if we're not done December 31st, so you can end with it. And I said, I just want it done, and I want it done right. But we're going to talk to the engineer and Christian again this week. Senior Center, yes, we went out to bid for the furniture. And this morning, the building committee, subcommittee for furniture met and selected a vendor. It's basically about 27,000 less than what was originally anticipated. So we're feeling good about that. Now the next step is that for David Lom and I to approve that and say, yes, we're okay with those numbers. We will do that, then we will bring up all of the choices of coverings and colors to 2.1. We'll do some selection, and maybe they'll give Stephanie 2 choices on a gray or whatever, and she'll have to make some choices on colors if she has to. And we'd like to get this out and bid and purchase orders going, because we need this back.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I know I'm not exciting.
No, I was just looking for something that might help with the cost of furniture.
So that is a good thing. And I also want to, Eric and Tom have worked. Eric's done some great work getting us some EverSource money back through some program that they have, because they're putting in the new appliances in the senior center. We're going to give a rebate back. We looked at the CCMI contract, which was for the sound systems and things, and they had some monitors in there that were going to cost us like $8,000 for 4 monitors. So I called CCMI and I said, hey, it's Cyber Monday, and we think that we could maybe get some better deals on this. Would you be okay? And they said, sure. So I put Tom Meyer on it, and he did some shopping. He sent up the specs to CCMI. They said, yes, those are great. Those will fit our needs. We will pay for the mounts. We'll pay for it. We'll include the installation, which was on the original contract. So we saved $4,000 that day. So I like this thing.
Just while I have it, I was looking for Transfer Enterprises is a used furniture company that buys when offices close down.
They do not bid.
Well, did you go to them? I mean, I'm just looking emergency, management, those tables, you'd be
I will
amazed
tell
at what
you-
this place has. I mean, please.
They don't do that. I bought a bunch of furniture from those guys.
Yep.
And, you have to go there.
You have to go there.
Warehouse in Manchester.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's good, it's high quality stuff.
Okay,
It looks
well,
like new.
I will tell you this, that I did go to the WB Mason warehouse up in Norwich.
Yeah.
And we bought 2 chairs. Don Bugsy's chair was literally fraying onto the floor. And he had bought his own chair like 20 years ago, so. $220 later, we got him a new chair. Katie's chair was digging into the carpet, we got her a new chair. So that she can now move freely. We bought just the shell of a desk so that our HR person can be seated at a desk when she's here on days that Amy Benatti is also here, because they share office space. And I'm under, I understand that Suzanne's desk in the tax collector's office, the laminate is literally peeling up, and that would be something else. So I'm more than happy to take a road trip to
Just
Manchester.
send me the link to their place.
Thank you. I will do that. I love a bargain.
There you go. Thank you.
Happy to go shopping in the middle of budget season. All right. So we're doing, that's going well. Anticipated date of, they anticipate us as far as moving, starting to move things in around March 3rd. And we should have ownership by March 19th. That's the anticipated date at this point in time. So far, we're looking good. We would not have a grand opening until a little later. We'll do a soft opening, get things into place, but we worked out a punch list of what we have to do as far as moving in the furniture that's in storage. Working with CCMI to get in the sound systems, to CT to doing the wiring and anything else that we have. So we've got our punch list to do and we're working for it. And Eric and I are the furniture co-chairs. Okay, Soundview parking lot's done. Federal justice system is happy that it's done. The sewers projects are going out to bid various places. Old Colony, I think, will go out first. I think that we will follow shortly thereafter in Miami also. Old Lyme Shores is on hold. They're waiting to see what our numbers are, so that they can get a better idea, because they might have to go out for another referendum for additional funding. So, because there is more to their project, because they're also doing stormwater. Just so you know, we have a new hire for our Public Works Department. George Martin had resigned to go to Region 4 to work for the schools department. So Mario Gagliardi, we got him from Marlboro. He's now living in East Lyme, so this is much closer for him. And he started on Monday. The guys say he's a little powerhouse. So
What does he do?
Public Works.
But what particular job?
They do everything.
They do everything.
Okay.
They do everything. Also, between Anita and Jill and I, we're getting our Public Works Department up to speed on all their licenses and things and their education that they're supposed to have to run certain equipment. So,
And the credit card machine went live.
oh yes, the credit card machine went live at the transfer station, so you
Wow.
don't need your $5. Now you can just,
So with the public works, I mean, what's preventing them from cutting down trees that are not
they're
complicated?
not trained.
Could they be trained? Could they get a certificate to do that?
I bet the insurance is through the roof.
Need a bucket truck.
They did.
Well, there are certain trees that don't
Okay, so
require,
let me
a
Tell
bucket.
you,
Yeah.
we don't have a bucket truck.
No,
So, but what they did do is they went and rented a lift, a power lift, for, I think it was 1 or 2 weeks. And they pulled it around and they did all the trimming of the low branches that were interfering with the bus routes and things like
With
that.
the chainsaw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and well, clippers and whatever they had, but they can run a small chainsaw that was, I don't know, 18 inches, but I don't know, the normal one.
I think they can cut stuff if it falls on the road.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
go and cut it
Like a
up.
big one.
The fire department goes and cuts it up too.
Right.
And we own a chipper. The town, we bought a chipper
Mhm.
10 years ago, I think,
Yeah.
right? So they can, clean up something that falls across a road. that doesn't take power lines out that Eversource isn't gonna come out
Sure, yeah.
to fix.
It's safe, yeah.
So they can do stuff like that, but I think, as Martha said, the training,
If there are requirements to abide by,
yeah,
we need to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure these guys know what they're doing, but if there's regulations, let's abide by them.
yeah, if it's up,
We have-
up in the air, I think.
I mean,
It just comes back to the tree commission. I've been on it for a couple of years. I'm still confused when we have to hire somebody and when we could possibly ask Public Works to take something down.
So there's, sometimes I'm confused too about trees. I've been
So we
educated.
can talk about it later. I don't want to drag this out.
Anything that's on the town property that's like street facing, like I know someone just put in a driveway, they didn't get permission to take down the trees that were within the parameters of town property. So who gave them permission? I said, I didn't know they had to have permission. Ed didn't say it. Eric had signed off on the permit. Ed had signed off on the permit. I looked at the plans. Nowhere on the plans did it say, hey, there's 2 trees here and I'm taking them down. It just said, this is where the driveway is going. So, I don't have the rules of that. Also just knowing that Jessica Glantz is leaving the town clerk's office. Jessica's been sort of part-time fill in when she needs to. She's also the person that Vicky's had working on her, project through the state for records. Jessica still will come in and fill in if they need her here and there, but she just doesn't want to do the full time with her children anymore. So that's that. And that's pretty much it that I can think to tell you. If there's anything else you'd like to know, just ask.
What about like Tottenham Road, like, is that? How's that coming?
It's coming. There's a letter that's going to. We had executive session, so I don't can't say too much, but.
How about, the UST problem up at Public Works?
The under the wells.
Yes.
Eric is still waiting to get a third quote.
Okay.
He appreciated so much talking to you, and, he's waiting for that third quote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Really? Sure.
So, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Anything else you want to celebrate? Be my guest.
Well, make a motion.
And
to
Happy
adjourn.
New Year. This is the last meeting of the year.
Do we get a public comment?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Public comment.
Don wants to say something.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is someone showing up on TV?
I gotta set my speaker switch, I think.
yeah, hello,
Try that.
I'm on. Hold on,
No.
Are we sure it's not a volume issue on that? Oh, your sound is off.
my sound is on.
All right. Go ahead. Now we're good. Try it, John.
All right, hats off to Andy. You guys wasted probably a half
And he
hour
sent me
talking
a note
about,
that our sound
budgets.
quality was awful.
Huh.
yeah.
We can't hear him.
Ours is
can't hear
unmuted on
anything.
the computer and we have these.
I don't know what I can do beyond what I've done.
John, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Remote for the
John,
TV.
can you hear?
Turn up the
Wait a
TV.
minute, hold on. Yep.
Because he can call my cell phone.
Hold on. Is that?
No.
Speaker
Yeah.
went on the side.
BJ, give him your cell phone number.
I don't think he
John,
can.
hold on, we're trying to get.
Does he need to not unmute himself?
He's unmuted. He was muted and he's unmuted.
There was some, people.
Still number to call.
And when he talks, his screen lights up blue, so it's hearing it, but we're not hearing.
And
I can
Sending
hear
audio
Andy.
to his.
Try again.
My
speakers are muted. I'm muted.
Yeah, you gotta,
And you've got.
it's yours, you gotta turn your laptop.
There we go.
John, you want to try again speaking?
Hello?
No.
Would you like to call BJ's cell phone? Whose cell phone's available?
Hold
Hold
on,
on,
John.
John.
Can he hear you?
He can hear us.
203
Wait,
Dial
this number. 203.
213.
Give him a minute.
Give him a minute.
He has to go find a phone.
He's
He's got
got
his
his
phone.
phone.
203 213
9929.
9929.
Or we can use semaphore.
You can use
A
semaphore.
list of phone numbers to call.
Use my Zoom.
Set
Pay
up a
for
phone
it.
tree.
Here are all the phone
Go
numbers.
all night
for
on it.
finance.
Everybody knows how to
Call
use it.
Until you find an open line.
Oh geez. Oh, my dad is the same way.
Hello, John?
Put him on speaker.
There you go.
You're
Yes, I can hear you.
you're on the speaker.
I know, they mute my speaker here.
Oh geez, he can hear
You,
himself.
thank you for sitting in for the past 5 hours or whatever it's been. You have the floor.
No, I want to hats off to Andy. He had a great comment. I got started early because I thought this would be a short meeting. You spent a lot of time going back and, yeah, I'm an ex-CFO, I'm trying to get more involved. I'm kind of new in the town. You spend a lot of time arguing back and forth between this month, last month. You need to start looking at year to date. Because you spent a half hour arguing over numbers. But I guess my biggest issue that I didn't know I was getting into was this whole emergency management building. I've run multi-million-dollar companies, $100 million companies remotely, and I don't know why you need a physical presence. If you've got server farms outsourced, I don't know why in the world you need a building with desks in it to run something like that. And I will be very vocal about this. Number two is the with the 100-year plane, the 50-year plane. I mean, the city hall, is it going to get flooded? Can you move facilities up to the high school? Is Rogers Lake really that far up? Again, is it people or is it servers? Again, everything should be remote. So that's, I guess, my 2 cents. I was just amazed that we're trying to spend, again, given the budgets, not the budgets, given the expenditures that are coming up over the next 2 to 3 years, this seems like an expenditure that can be delayed for a long time. And I think there's lots of opportunities to defer costs if it's either outsourcing computer work or outsourcing desks for somebody. So thank you very much. It was a very good meeting, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment. Any other closing comments? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Andy makes it. We're adjourned.